everybody, and let's exit to port.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings, Grumbles.
Hello, Tiger.
How are we this wonderful evening in June?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I'm currently only sweating from 69% of my body, so that'll do.
Nice.
Start as you mean to go on.
Oh yeah, that's what she said. It is currently the 12th of June, 17:39 in the evening time. Me and Mr. Grumbles have had our editorial meeting.
Yes. Hey.
I would like to note, for those listening at home, that I just looked at my camera and did the whole editorial meeting glance. For those that were part of the stream where this became a thing, you know the look.
Oh yeah, it's important.
It is. We would like to lead this episode by saying thank you for all the comments, questions, feedback on the last episode. It really does. It really does help and motivate to keep a podcast going, and you know, we could probably sit here and talk forever about a lot of things, but being able to involve and get feedback from the community really does help with that whole thing. So, sincerely, thank you to everybody who has posted questions. And for everybody who wants to post questions, there is a possibility both on YouTube, in the comments there, or on Discord. We will once again link to both our channels, and I think I should be able to link to both of our Discords, or... No, we might not do that, because that could end up being spammy. So
yeah.
If you want to get on the Discord, you know how to get on the Discord. Let's just say it like that.
Exactly. And especially my Discord's particularly easy. There are no height restrictions.
I won't lie. You had me in the first half. I was like, hold on, where's this going? But then it took a turn. And that's what she said. I guess we can just jump straight into it.
Why not?
So we're gonna lead off with talking a bit about the goal for playing World of Warships. This is part of kind of a lead off of a comment I got the other day while I was celebrating 1 year as partner on Twitch, by the way.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much for that. Wouldn't be here without the community, I can say that much. But I had a comment because as part of just making the day filled with shenanigans and fun and interactive, I thought, okay, I'm gonna let viewers decide how I play. We're talking everything from play the Mikasa and only use armor piercing, no secondaries and no ramming, to the Kitakase, but you can only fire torpedoes off the left side of the ship. That sort of thing. These were actual strats that were suggested. So, okay, how do I adapt? How do I adapt and try to make this as good as possible? I'll be honest, some of them were super frustrating. Like sailing the Pommern backwards.
Wait, you're not supposed to do that?
Yeah, no, only backwards.
Okay, it's not the jump bar. I get you. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? And I wasn't even in the middle so that I could possibly reach somewhere quickly. No, I was on the very flank of one of our spawns. So I did like 20,000 damage in the Pommern, where in that sort of situation I would probably be able to reach about 50, 60, 70k on a weird day, but it could easily have been a way higher game for me. But it's like, you know, just how do you adapt to this?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of fun. And I think the viewers had a lot of fun with that too. But as part of that, I had a comment from one viewer pop in and say, like, I wish that streamers like yourself, you know what? Actually, I think I can go and find the actual comment from him just to make it even more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was just, you know, it was so weird. It was so weird. Let me just pull up my
Well, it should be easy enough for you to go into your email box and just filter for emails from Grumpy Beard.
Yeah, no, not quite. Not quite.
That's just my way of saying I miss Grumpy.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. Oh, speaking of bans, just as I popped into the moderator view here, you remember a while back, there was some guy who followed a raid from my channel that I'd banned into your channel, and you were receiving these comments because I've completely blocked him.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. There's an unban request from him saying that his male reproductive organ is still hard.
What?
Yeah, so that's just gonna go ahead and be a nope.
Yeah, it's like, here's the emergency medical number you might need, but other than that, no.
You know, good luck with that.
Wow.
No, let's see here. Yeah, so the comment from the said banned viewer now, because he annoyed me, was that I really wish people like you, streamers, could play for the objective and actually do what is needed from you in the role you play. Don't do requests. And then I said, you do realize I'm here primarily as an entertainer on Twitch, and my goal is not to be the best at this game, and I will play for the best purpose of having fun, you know, what games are made for. And he said, no, you are ruining the game experience for all that actually do want to win. I play this game almost every day, and yes, I'm only here to get my drops. That is all. So that made me think, have we really evolved to a place where games like arcade games, free-to-play arcade games like World of Warships, is all about the win? Because I'll be honest, I'm not all about the win. And I'm not just speaking as a streamer, I'm speaking generally as a player. Because I don't know how many times on Two Brothers, like without streaming, I've sat down and thought, you know what, I'll go mid in this battleship. Because I think I'll have fun. And I have had fun. Did it contribute to the win? I don't know. I don't care. But
Probably
that's the
more
thing.
often than you. Probably more often than you or the rest of the team thought.
Yeah, sure, but still beside the point. Like that,
Oh yeah.
I'm not one of those people that look at stats, and I sure, I can see that it's important for some, but it's I play games to have fun.
I think that there's like an underlying, like, I don't know, I don't want to use the word problem, but there's definitely something to that obsessiveness or obsession that is born out of, I guess it's just a mixture of generally society and measuring numbers, and you know, you can go through to like school years and kids being given grades and all that kind of thing, right? And I'm not saying like go to the other extreme where it doesn't matter, they can all sit in the backyard eating grass all day or something like that. But I think that I don't know what it is, but for a lot of people, that whole focusing on the statistics and that trying to win and that kind of thing, I think you lose track of the fact. You kind of lose that relative position and realization of like, well, but this is, as you said, just an arcade game for fun. Doesn't really matter what kind of game, but okay, if you're in a serious simulation thing where people are really trying and it's more scientific and whatever, fair, you can kind of understand it more. But in an arcade, I mean, fundamentally, it's an RNG game, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this already before, so not to rehash it all, but you've got all these other people in there with you as well doing whatever, right? I mean, someone could sneeze, click their mouse button because they sneezed without, out of control, fires their guns, they're in a low health DD, they get killed. Does that make them, what, did they ruin the game for everyone else or whatever? It's like someone sneezed. It's like, this is how ridiculous it is.
Yeah,
so,
life happens.
Yeah.
It does. Though I just feel like there are better games out there if you're only looking to win. There are way better games out there, and if you're looking to win, and where you have more control over that. And I see it so many times, like in chat, somebody suddenly going off the rails on somebody, because there's a ban CV player heading for you in his Holland while you're in a Max Immelmann trying to... No, I wasn't even in Immelmann. I was in a tier 8. I was in a tier 8 CV. And the flank had collapsed while I was on one side trying to help said player who went off the rails on me. And it was just way too late. Like it literally collapsed in the matter of seconds. So me starting to try to move my CV while he was screaming, you gotta help me kill this Kleber or whatever it was. I'm like, kind of busy over here, dude. Being chased down by a Holland that is literally just killing my planes as I'm taking off. What do you want from me? You gotta help me kill this. I can't.
I think people, it's that the mixture or that grey line or whatever, that subtle borderline that a lot of people miss between friendly competitiveness. Let's play a game, we try and win, and then maybe there's a little element of it that comes psychologically or whatever from the virtual nature of it is. I mean, it's all so abstracted, right? The best you've got is text chat, which doesn't convey context or sentiment with it. It's just literal flat words that can be, I've done it before. I read a thing, I'm like, oh, that was mean. And then I reread it afterwards and think, oh, maybe they were actually just trying to communicate a very neutral sort of factual thing that I read as in a different way or put a different meaning to or whatever. And I think the abstraction of like everyone's behind a certain name, like, who's going to take what Major Look Silly says seriously in chat, right? If you do, more fool you anyway most of the time. But and that false sense of like, I don't know if it's like a sense of security but that like I can say anything I want because you're not actively thinking that you're hidden behind this, but you are, and you subconsciously know this, right? So you kind of, if it was like, Joe Blogs was the, your RL life and everything about, your working and your social network and your family and all that, it's not as likely that Joe Blogs would then say, you're an absolute blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because everyone would be like, wow, Joe's in a bad mood today kind of thing. So I think there's that. And I think that the competitiveness that we all have kind of on an instinctual level, like a survival, instinct sort of thing that maybe because all this technology has kind of sprung up on us almost out of nowhere in a kind of a lifetime evolutionary sort of sense or whatever, that I think a lot of people lack the coping mechanisms for it, and also because a lot of the time gaming is an escape for us all, and sometimes you can be in a bad situation or bad position or whatever, and then that escapism isn't going the way you want it to either, so it kind of compounds the topic, and I think that's what causes people to lash out, in almost in a misbehaving child kind of a way, which is kind of a misnomer, because it's not really a child thing, it's just another humanoid misbehaving at a certain point or just having a bad moment. But I agree. I think it would be I wish there was an easier way, and I think the only way that we have, and I think we try to do our best with it, is to build communities that kind of share that, call it like a sort of a decent underlying philosophy of it's game, we're here to have fun together, let's try to, not be toxic.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that there's somebody at the other end of that other keyboard and mouse,
Yeah, like it's the problem for me here is, of course, that I would never do anything like that in a ranked game. A ranked game is literally about doing your very best. I feel like random battle, it's kind of in the word. It's a random battle. You never know what kind of people you'll have on your team. You'll never know what kind of stuff will happen in the setup or everything, It's literally random.
I think you might hit, I mean, it just occurred to me now as you were saying that, but you might have hit on maybe one of the underlying kind of challenges, let's say, that we face in that context, is that I think that random battle, because I see it the same way, but I dare say maybe when I very first started out in the game where there wasn't all these other things, I don't think, or I think maybe for a considerable portion of the player base, random battle really isn't that as we're describing it. It's really the place where they go to be competitive, if you see what I mean. So, and yeah, I think that because ranked is, let's, in the simplest, shortest way I can describe it, it's awkward. It's not really competitive in a real kind of hardcore esports tournament kind of a way that it was tried to be sold as or supposed to be. It isn't really that. There's too much imbalancing. There's just too many factors that go, and the fact that you've still got the RNG and everything else. So and I think a lot of people are put off or intimidated or frustrated, however it comes across to them in their mind. But I think a lot of people just don't want to go anywhere near rank. Most people would say, I can't be bothered with rank, or I'm not even going to play it anymore, and that kind of thing. And I've gone through exactly those emotions as well, because some of that extra competitive edge comes across as in toxicity, negativity, lots of reports, or people just not understanding and playing very well, all those kind of. So I think that everyone defaults back to randoms because that's kind of the core of the backbone of the game, if you will. And so I think that I think I said random, but I meant random. Random battles is effectively the competitive place for more competitive-minded people. And I think that there's no easy solution of people like ourselves that are much more, we try and win, but it's a game, and then we're here to have fun and play casually and just enjoy ourselves, and we understand that we're more competing against ourselves rather than anything else, and then whatever percentage of the player base might be, I don't know, maybe a gut feeling might be at least half of them that see it as actually this is the place where I'm gonna go improve myself, and that's where this thing about numbers being important and all the rest of it comes into it. So I think that might be part of the challenge is that, and maybe this leans back into things we talked about before with the game not developing or sufficiently developing and enhancing alternative methods of enjoying the experience, like lack of operations and what they're doing with the brawls thing, where kind of an interesting idea could have had some legs to it, but it turns out, 5 people or however many the number is can just group up and know what they're going to do and play and like each other and all the rest of it, and turn up against 5 or however many number of random people that have no clue what they're doing and aren't communicating. That doesn't solve the problem. That only exacerbates it. So,
quick thought I just had. Would it be better to redo the wording of this? And because what they've started doing with ranked is, of course, that they've stretched out the seasons. They've stretched out so that there's a longer time to play it. It's not just something that happens for 1 week or something. And they have all these sprints that lead further and further into the season. Would it be better to have the other game mode called casual. Instead of random, call it casual, where there's no extra sort of matchmaking, there's no ladders, there's no effect on your stats. And then you have ranked, which would in essence be randoms, but with focus on wins, focus on doing as much damage as possible. Because I'm just thinking out loud here, with that being a thing, then you could say, okay, the battleship that tanked the most throughout the season, well, he gets a bit more something, or the torpedo boat that dealt the most torpedo damage or spotted the most, something like that. You can give extra to those, because then you accentuate how to play your role, right?
I like that.
Would that be a thing that would help the sort of the mindset for the viewer that came in here? And I'll be honest, he kind of screwed up the mood. Oh, he really didn't. I was on top of the world that day. He didn't really screw up the mood, but he really could have. He honestly could have with this comment. So, because that would leave him a place to do his thing. It will also be very clear cut in the player contract that while you're playing this game mode, you try your best, you do these things, and you get rewarded for doing your best thing. Because I'm all aboard with what he said, just not while I'm in randoms,
Yeah, so I think I like the idea. I think that, the very first thing, like what I thought when I was listening to what you were saying, is the first thing that sprang to mind is, why not just delete the win rate statistic completely?
Well, yeah.
Right? Just get rid of that's one statistic that everyone's kind of far too hung up on. I've noticed in recent months there's slowly being a shift towards personal rating. I'm very worried that I've seen personal rating being brought up in chats about, oh, I've just looked up your PR, blah blah blah. Right, okay, so stop internet stalking, please. But I think that there's definitely merit to what you're suggesting. I think that, and this is where I'm not putting it back on wargaming entirely, but this is where another example for me where wargaming could do a significant bit of work and improvement towards removing toxicity and encouraging more camaraderie and shared enjoyment of this product, even if we all enjoy it in different ways to different degrees. But I think that they're missing, for me, and maybe this relates a little bit to the rebooting the CC program, whatever, I don't know, but I think that wargaming in their community management, or I hate the word management in that context, so community, let's say development and so forth, and guidance, they could make great leaps and bounds if they, for example, your suggestion, you could have two things. One, and they've done this in the past, I can't remember whether it was in ranked or where they did it, but they did a thing for, or if it's like seasonal competitions, where they would say, here's the top 10 people that we used to have this on NA server about a year and a half ago, where it was like you could literally, like, whoever had got this particular number of kills or whatever, and there was just a leaderboard, like the top 100. Everyone would have brackets of, like, you'd all be able to fulfill kind of the basic stuff, even for casual players. And if you really wanted to try, there was like a 1 through 100 of the top 100 people in that particular category. I can't remember. I can't really picture it in my mind. I can sort of see the table, but I can't remember what the subjects were. It's probably like number of kills or total number of XP earned or something like that, right? Yeah. Not saying that they had it right then, but it gives you something to kind of aim at, and if you want to measure it or wherever you can. But it's a very temporal thing, like a very point in time. Over this next month or something, this happens. And you can compete in it, and then you can just see where you ended up or not. But there was also this kind of safety net underneath of, like, but everyone gets a little slice of the pie as long as you kind of play 10 battles and whatever, like, so potential damage for a battleship, things like that, and then have some suitable levels of rewards that you could dish out to people based on that. Because I think that it's about reward and recognition, and where the game is incredibly weak from my point of view is that we're always talking about team play and lack of team play and all this other stuff,
Yeah,
and there's a
exactly.
lot where the toxicity comes from is that everything is oriented towards rewarding the individual. Yeah. And a lot of it is done in a very, very subtle, almost passive way, like looking at your statistics. Essentially, you've got your statistic breakdown. It's really cool. There's loads of mathematics in there. There's loads of things to look at, and you can measure your numbers over time and see if you're improving. I'm, for example, often trying to work on my average damage, because am I actually being effective? Am I putting out what I need to in various ships and stuff like that? It just interests me, and it gives me something that I can work on for myself without it really bothering anybody else. But there's no meaning to it, or no, rather there's no kind of reward and recognition to it, and I think that would be something that could really enhance more more positive elements of the gaming experience, is that people would say, well, look at that, my maybe this is a bad example, but say in the month of June these were my numbers, and because of those numbers I got this amount of coal.
Yeah.
And then you could have those in brackets. So like everyone who got like 100,000 of this got this amount of coal and so forth. And then these numbers would suddenly have a meaning and a reward aspect to them. And I know that there are, because people probably bring this up in the comments, maybe is there are like the daily and the recurring missions and all, but those are all so mundane and boring and almost irrelevant. Like you can look at them, like I know you do this, and I've started to do this a little bit as well, and it's kind of good psychologic for us to kind of give ourselves a target, or take someone and say, oh, I like the sound of this one, I really like the way you do that. It's a cool thing, and it's good that you encourage that in the community as well by doing that. I just think why can't we make that more of an active thing, rather than it being the games like, well, I put all this palette of things in front of you, it's up to you if you chew on the cheese or you take the salami or whatever. It's like, well, why not just make it a little bit more obvious what people can get from some of this? Wouldn't it be nice if you logged in like every Monday and the screen that popped up wasn't just a click here for some free thing, but it was here's the breakdown of how your last week went, and as a result of that you're getting this much coal or this much silver credit or something like that.
Because
and you'd be like, oh, cool.
You're being measured towards yourself.
Yeah.
You're not being measured towards everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you have small obtainable goals to reach for.
Mm-hmm.
That could be cool. Don't break it down in the way like, when this is down from last week or so on. Or,
no.
Just say, this is the breakdown of your last week. Here
and they
is
have
the price.
those mechanics already, right?
They do.
Because if you look at the recruitment thing, that's exactly how that works. This is what your recruits have done last week. It pops up on the screen, and you get this many points, and you can spend it on ABC. And the good thing there is you can choose to share that out amongst your recruits as well.
It's kind of fun. Like when you were talking about this whole like the cheese and the salami and everything, what popped into my head about World of Warships players is, we're kind of like toddlers.
Yeah.
And hear me out. Because if you say to a toddler, what do you want for dinner? They'll say ice cream. The World of Warships equivalent for this is, I want to win and get steel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or get a ship out of all super containers I ever get. That sort of thing. However, if you break it down to a player and say, what do you want to do? Do you want to play ranked and get steel? Or do you want to play casuals or randoms and get coal and just have fun? I'm breaking it down weirdly, but limit the options,
Or make it clearer when you make your selection what that's going to lead you towards.
Sure,
and then make it really kind of in your face what you're getting back from that.
Sure, but like this directly connects to my thought of there's content saturation. Limit the options and say, here's what you get in these places. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
That way, the toddler gets the question, what do you want for dinner? Do you want fish or sausages, Bad comparison, but you get my drift there.
I definitely get your drift. Yeah,
Because that way you also have the better idea for what is your goal for playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just
yeah. I think there's that, and I think there's another even maybe more subtle aspect of it is, and I try to kind of, I was going to say preach. Then I thought I don't know if I should use that word, but what I always try to remind people of is. And what I've said about statistics, whenever statistics have come up as a major conversation in the past, is I say to people, you're as good as the game you're currently in and the very last game you played before that, because it's fresh in your memory.
Yeah.
Everything else is irrelevant. Just think, did you make a mistake last time? Did you do well? And build from there. And then focus on the game you're currently in and try to enjoy everything that's going on in that one battle. And don't think about the next 10 ahead or whatever. Just literally one battle at a time.
Yeah.
And because I think that's part of the other aspect, and it goes as well with your content saturation points of view that I share, is that there's so much going on, like in the like outside of battle, is that being in battle has almost been resigned to being like, oh, this is the little annoying bit on the side.
Yeah.
And hurry up and I can get through this battle quickly. And if we lost, it was everyone else's fault except mine. And if we won, I was brilliant and carried it. And then I get back to the port, and then I'm like, oh, what's shining on the screen? What did I get for that? How much? Where's the stuff?
Yeah.
Where's my free Masashi? Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. And all this from one person saying, I wish you didn't do requests.
Hey, buddy, I wish you'd stream so I could come to your stream and relax and not see any requests.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. I'm only here for the drops anyway. Yeah, sure. Sure. You know
Look,
what?
I'm sorry, okay? I was in a bad mood that day.
You know what? It's like you said in the editorial meeting. Next time, I'll just sit in a hot tub in the porch and have World of Warships as the category. That way, people can get drops and also get hot tub streamers at the same time. You know? Yeah. The world. I tell you, like sometimes I really can't understand humans.
So here's one, right, just before we move on.
Yeah.
But just speaking of what you just said, reminded me, I can't remember if I told you this before or not, but during Enlisted, when they did the weekend with the drops, there was a channel, Russian, that's irrelevant. I'm not saying that because I'm pointing at Russia or whatever. It just happened. I'm just mentioning the fact. Yeah. So it was a Russian channel, and they had like something like all drops all the time or something like that, right? Or 24-hour stream of drops, right? Yeah. And it was literally, they streamed live the whole time with the menu, like showing one of the troop squads or something, and they just left it live over the whole weekend. And I actually had it up in the background with the tab muted in the browser, and just left it there so I could get drops, because no skin off anyone's nose, you know. No. It just made me remember that right then when you said that.
That reminds me of one of the Warships channels I've often seen. I don't remember his name, but I know I've reported it because he's in the Warships category, but there's not Warships on the channel. So that is a breach there. But that, what you just mentioned, it's not a breach.
Well,
showing enlisted.
I was really confused at first. I was like, what is the point? And there were people like actually chatting and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, but I realized they were having conversations with each other because there was literally no streamer there.
So we're back to the IRC days suddenly. Huh. Maybe that's what I'll do for my next 24-hour stream or something. Find something that gives drops and just have it on in the menu, and then I'll go and sleep or something.
The weird bit with the hype trains and the fact that they made partner in 3 days.
Speaking of making partner and streaming, we have a few questions and comments regarding streaming that we're going to touch on. Before this is going to be a conversation. This is probably going to be the main meat and potatoes of today's podcast. But we have comments from both Margana and Finn McCorvus, and Dominica. who are Dominica's part of my community at least. He's probably been over on your channel several times.
Oh yes, we know Dominica. We're aware of Dominica.
Yes, we are. We are fully aware of you, Dominica. That went weird.
Stop staring at us.
Anyway, the comments from Marangana are: how do you pick moderators as a streamer? How do you find your emote artists or inspiration for emotes if you do them yourself? And if you could pick a meme ship and have it in Warships, no matter what, if it all existed in game or not, what would it be and why? So I'm just going to quickly say that straight out there. I have no idea. I have no idea what ship I'd want in Warships. How about you?
I do. I scribbled it down before because it made me. I thought so. I'm going to pick a ship that's in the game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here and please take Sasula and disappoint everyone else. But I would love to have the Graf Zeppelin augmented by at least a couple of Marceau guns and one set of Harlan torps.
Oh, God.
Just for self-defense.
Okay.
And I'm, by the way, just to clarify, I'm talking about the Graf Zeppelin, back when secondaries used to work properly.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, there you go. So, moving on with other questions regarding streaming and such. Finn asks, what's a good starter spec for desktop PC streaming? What peripherals should you have / obtain to make the most of your early streaming after establishing that you wish to continue? 1 or 2 PC setup. We'll explain a bit more about what that means. And upgrading hardware as you establish your channel, affiliate and above, choices and recommendations. There's also a bit of a comment on one of the YouTube channels that's thanks for the section on sound and sound engineering. It makes me wonder what other tips you could pass on these as we're interested in beginning to stream. So yeah, and a comment from Dominica. I know I'm a freaking offender with this, but what are your thoughts on viewers joining your games during streams? Any etiquette rules you believe to be important? So we're going to be touching on a few of these, probably all of them, honestly. First and foremost, I just want to say to anybody who wants to start streaming, do it. But one thing I want you to keep in mind that a lot of people lose focus on, or rather not lose focus on, but they hyper focus on the numbers. If you're not in this to do it as your day-to-day job, or you're not in this to grow to a certain extent or such, don't look at the numbers. Because the first thing that'll happen is that when you reach one of those plateaus, it's going to it's going to wreck all sorts of self-esteem you have. It's going to ruin your love for streaming. It's going to ruin your love for being live. Because suddenly you find yourself in almost a battle with chat or your community or whatever you want to call them, where you are no longer there as a team. You're no longer there as somebody together. No, you are fighting for their love and for their views. And if they don't show up, then you are the one losing out on that. That's in essence where you'll end up. And I've seen so many TikToks on this where people are showing off their average numbers and their follower goals and such. And sure, have goals, have something to work towards, but do not let yourself get stuck in those numbers. I agree. It's scary.
Yeah, you've got to go into it, or you don't have to. I would recommend, having kind of gone through all that roller coaster of both sides of that, I would recommend trying as best as possible to go into it with a build it and they will come mentality. And this also, maybe this comes with the side note of like, and sometimes you need to rebuild it. and they will come or they will return or whatever. Because one thing that's for sure is if you looked at anybody's day one stream, even like super pros out there, right? I'll give you an example, Co-Carnage, and look at some of like really early YouTubes and stuff like that. And sometimes you lose a little bit of the perspective because the tech's moved on, quality of things are better and whatever. But like Co was, he's got a natural talent for it and comes from a dev background and that kind of thing. So very, up to speed and advanced and all that. But like, just if you look at it in terms of like the pure technical quality, I guess it was all fine. But you look at like how he presented himself, and overlay use and all that kind of thing, and you look at what he does today, and it's a long time on and 1 million followers later and all the rest of it, but it is like universes apart.
It is.
So I would advise looking at something like that as an example of, well, look how amazing that guy is and what he does and the huge community and whatever else. And then see the difference of like when they started, So you will definitely make mistakes. You will definitely, as Tiger said, you'll have times where it just plateaus. Like maybe you'll get a raid or two somewhere, and it'll be all of a sudden you'll feel like all the rage, all the trend or whatever, and you go from like 50 followers to like 100, 150, 200, whatever, right? Yeah. And then it will suddenly sit there at like 200 for like a couple of months or something. One or two coming in.
A drop in followers suddenly too.
Yeah, because you get the, like I call it the weekly dip or something, where where few drop off because of algorithms or whatever reason, So what's really hard, because a lot of the goals that are given to you by the program and whatever in the service are all about numbers, is they kind of draw you in and suck you into this mass obsession with numbers, and then but all the sort of older hats and those that have been around a little bit longer give you the advice of like, don't focus on numbers, and you're like, but how can I not focus on numbers when I need numbers to fulfill these goals or to feel like I'm succeeding on the platform? The key to all of it is having fun. And feeling and finding your space, and being able to express yourself. And then comes the harsh reality sometimes, and this is a little bit like the looking in the mirror versus someone else looking at you and observing or whatever. Is the harsh reality might be you might think this is the bee's knees, the brilliant, this is the best thing, and you're getting better and better every 5 minutes of stream and whatever. And the audiences don't come, or they come along and they don't stay. Usually that's an indication that it's an indication of a number of different things. Often it's an indication that maybe you're reaching a little bit too far with something, or deviating a little bit away from where you're naturally comfortable and kind of enjoying expressing yourself in a fun and engaging way. It can sometimes also be completely out of your control that widget ABC or whatever, I don't know, GTA 6 just dropped, and you just don't happen to do that. So everybody's gone to GTA 6. So you've got to be mindful that of looking outside of your own little sort of sphere of influence and seeing what's going on, what's trending, where's everyone going right now, that kind of thing. And the other thing, to round that point off is again looking back, and for me, I always find it a little bit cringy sometimes, but it's important to every once in a while just look back at some of your videos or a highlight or a few clips or anything, just spend a little bit of time and try to look at it as neutrally as possible and think, would I be engaged by with this? Do I find it fun? Or is it too try-hardy or fake or something like that? And just see if you're and be honest with yourself, right? Ask yourself, exactly. Am I enjoying this?
Am I enjoying this? Am I being kind to myself? Two very important questions when you're streaming. And what you mentioned about like the growth, the change, going from just this guy sitting down to play some games and show that off to being able to do it full time, it takes a long time. Some people have a lot of luck and get picked up by a network or something that promotes them. But I recently had a conversation with Shoggy, or Shogalicious, good friend of mine, moderator. He mentioned that one of the big changes for Ko from when he went from a few hundred subs to a few thousand subs was when he had just done a full playthrough of Fallout 3 and ended that just as Fallout 4 came out.
Mm-hmm.
He had emotes, he had everything ready to go. This is not a starter move. What you mentioned about being aware of what goes on outside is incredibly important, because whereas there might be a new trend with a new game that comes out, super popular, that is going to draw viewers away. But if you're not comfortable playing it, don't play it. Keep on going in your way. And this kind of plays into something I've mentioned before regarding make sure that you're being you. Because you can only hold up a lie for so long. So being yourself and is important. And I know I've said this before, that everybody can stream, sure, but streaming might not be for everybody. I'm just going to go ahead and be that blunt. So looking outside of your own little bubble and realizing, okay, yeah, it's now been 7 years or whatever, and I haven't hit affiliate. Maybe this isn't for me. I don't know. Like it's weird. It's such a weird subject and topic because not everybody aims to become affiliate, but like make sure of what your goals are. Do you want to hit affiliate? Do you want to hit partner? Or do you just want a platform to sit down and share with others?
Yeah, and I think that exactly correlates to the point about build it and they will come, or rebuild it.
Yeah.
And that depends, as you said there, on your goals. If your goal is literally just to, in your spare time or whatever, just, spend some time sharing the experience with some people, then that's cool. But I think you're right as well in that you have to ask yourself, are you genuinely enjoying that, or is that becoming more like a habitual thing where you're not really sure if it's any good for you or not, or if you should be doing it, but it's kind of what you do. So I think that's that, but that's a tough one that people just have to ask themselves. And if you do have that genuine kind of, sort of inner conversation or whatever, and challenge yourself, and you decide you do want to do it, you really want to do it, then ultimately you've also got to maybe bite the bullet and say, well, maybe I need to reboot this, I need to rethink it, I need to come at it from a different angle. Because there might be also the possibility that you find something. I suppose there's a fine line sometimes between when we ask the question, am I having fun and enjoying this? There's a difference between, well, I really like playing Civ 6. So every time you start for Civ 6, you put your stream on. You stream it. There's a difference between that, yeah, what you're doing, just idling your time away. Because I've bumped into a few streams sometimes where it's like it's literally someone just playing a game, but they're not playing a game in the way of entertaining or really sharing the experience. Yeah. They're just playing a video game. and I'm like, does does anything happen here, or
yeah?
And so I think maybe there's probably a significant proportion of folks out there that are literally just kind of doing like a Discord share your screen kind of thing, but they're doing it via the Twitch platform. So, and again, nothing wrong with that. But
nothing wrong with that at all. It's and that could be the goal for somebody. And I do know there are quite a lot of people that do enjoy that. But
I mean, sometimes it's relaxing to just go through it, right? I'm not meaning to be critical. I'm saying in the case where people are, why is this not growing? Why is this not becoming more of a thing or whatever? Yeah. Then you need to look at it and say, well, and that's where watching your own content, or maybe just if you can't do it yourself, maybe have someone that you trust and respect, have a look at your content and maybe give you a few pointers about it. Maybe you're just making a couple of those quite common mistakes, like one we talk about this probably a bit later anyway, but like audio, where like the game audio is completely blasting anything you're saying or doing off the stream. then people won't come in. And you might see numbers like 5 or 10 people, but they're not even the same 5 or 10 people. They're just 5 or 10 people who pop their head in, hear suddenly a loud explosion in the game, and then leave again. And then the next 5 people come in.
Yeah. So, yeah, find your niche too. Right? The thing about like what should I stream? Like I don't know. Like only you can answer that. I feel. And one thing I feel is important to stress here is just how vulnerable you are while you're sitting there. Like you're sitting down to do something you love, something you enjoy, but you're also opening yourself up to the public, to comments, to everything, really. And you gotta be prepared for, how do I handle this? How do I deal with somebody coming in and saying something that could potentially be very hurtful? Like one of the, and it's gonna be weird to say this after having been on the platform for what, many years now, is one of the comments that hit me the hardest whenever it pops up is somebody coming in and saying, well, okay, I'll go somewhere else. Okay, why do you feel the need to tell me? If you don't like what's going on here, either just leave or give me feedback in a proper way to what you feel would be better. Like oh, this is boring, whatever, and then pop out. Like, okay, why leave that as a comment? And that one hits me. I don't know why. Like, it all depends on the mood of the day, by all means, but it's still like, okay, listen here, face, you know? We gotta have a talk. It's like, oh, yeah.
Leave the room saying, fix your stream.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's...
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. There's something, I think it's just because it's chat and has no context or sentiment, but we obviously, as humanoids, we still interpret and place those things into what we see and read, right? So I think there's just something very cold about the all right, bye. There's something because we're kind of nurtured and understandably expecting some kind of like, you know, oh, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be, or you know, just something that you can kind of work with. But I agree with you. It's funny because I think there's two sides to it on the terms in terms of the person that makes a comment like that. Because I've had a couple of those, like you know, they don't happen often, thankfully, but every once in a while, and you're like, oh, actually, there's one that I wasn't even sure if I should bring it up. I had one recently where I missed something in chat, and somebody kind of stormed off because I'd missed like 1 or 2 comments or something, and I was really gutted by that. I was like, well, you know, but this was a slightly different circumstance because it was like a regular as well, and I was like, you know, sometimes you know what it is, sometimes there's just a lot going on, whether it's in the game or in the chat or both, and you miss something, right? So but anyway, going back to the main point is that I think there's just something that feels kind of cold and leaves us a little bit hanging. As you said, like we're vulnerable and sort of putting a little bit of our you know, opening ourselves up a little bit, and then somebody just kind of goes, I don't like you, bye. Which is fair enough on the surface. Yeah. But it still feels like, well, it makes you wonder, because we're conscientious people. You know, you have to kind of build that thick skin up over time. But at the same time, I think you and I shared traits where we don't want to build that thick skin up too much, because we also, or certainly I, you know, speaking for myself, I don't want to feel like, you know, that I have that hard shell, or, you know, or I don't want to build that up too much in case, you know, it kind of backfires on me one day when I'm like, oh, I don't care. and I actually miss a comment that's actually quite well placed or and well meaning, and I just take it the wrong way or something. And I agree with you as well. It depends on mood and energy levels and all those kinds of things, because sometimes they just catch you at the moment where you're like, oh god, now I just want to end the stream and go and cry.
Yeah. So no, you have to be prepared for those moments. And regarding this whole missing something, I'm looking at my 4 screens right now. And on one screen I have Audacity for recording. In the background there is Pretzel ready to go for whenever I stream. On that screen I also have my overlook over Twitch, and the dashboard for the stream manager and the moderator view. That's also where I look up stuff on Wiki for type Generation Zero or World of Warships Wiki or whatever. Then there's my main monitor in front of me where the game is going on. Currently, I have the talking points for this podcast. Then there's my vertical monitor on my left, right next to the camera. So whenever I look at chat, I look near the camera. That's where I have OBS with all the stats showing dropped frames and all the different scenes there. I also have Chatty there with all the channels where everything goes on. I also have stream labels showing all the last events, raids, follows, you name it. And I also have the tiny window for all the requests for channel points. So, and not to mention, I have to keep watch on the GoXLR to make sure that everything is fine there, and then there's the microphone that's in my way, and so that's also something to keep in mind as a streamer. Fair enough. Not everyone will have the same huge setup that I have, but it'll quickly accumulate. Honestly. And then there's the Stream Deck. I almost forgot about the Stream Deck. So there's so much going on. So missing something in chat when there's potentially several hundred people there. I implore all of my viewers, and this is something I'm trying to be good at, to kind of roll back and see, okay, did I miss something? Is there something I need to answer? And see in chat, okay, are there things I need to cover here? I try to do that, but I will miss things. Everybody will miss things. We are human after all.
Well, speak for yourself, but yeah, no, but I fully agree, and and that is something that's maybe important, and the core thread of this topic about streaming and starting and what to expect and whatnot is there will be a lot going on. And it does become overwhelming quite quickly, even with experience. It becomes a little easier, but it never becomes super easy.
No. If anything, it could possibly get harder because you're working on more things. You implement more things into your stream. And this is actually kind of a perfect moment to talk about the question from Mari. How do you pick moderators? Because there will be a time where you can't moderate your own chat anymore. I'm still moderating my own chat heavily. There's a reason why I have things on the side there, but that's more to do with my own way of being. But how do you pick moderators for your stream? I have trust issues. But what I can say is that one of the first people actually the first person that I made a moderator was my brother. Not everybody is that lucky to have their own older brother be part of their stream. But if you have friends that hang out with you and encourage you to chat, and people that you trust and that you have a good relationship with already, ask them if they want to be a moderator. Don't just moderate them straight out, because suddenly somebody comes into chat and is like, oh, I'm a moderator. I've had that in somebody else's chat I've come in and like, what? Why do I have this sword?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's weird. Didn't ask for it. Didn't want it. Please remove it. And then they go, no. I'm like, okay. Good luck. But
yeah, I actually made that mistake once myself. I'm sure the person will smile heartily at it, but because I thought, well, this person's really capable. I've seen them moderate, and perfect fit kind of thing. And it was kind of discussed, but it was like discussed in sort of a chat scenario, not in a kind of like separate offline private message like, I was thinking about this, what do you feel about this, let's talk about it kind of thing.
Right.
And then I like immediately I was like, okay, that's might be a little bit too much. It might sort of, not intimidating is like the wrong word, but just like all of a sudden like, put the spotlight on them kind of thing. So I was like, okay, well, hang on, let me just rescind that, because that's but that was like a little very, very short-lived like thing, like just like a one stream chat thing. And then I thought about it and I thought that's probably just like too much all of a sudden. So, and then reached out and had a conversation and it was all completely fine, you know. But
Yeah.
so I learned a lot from that. For me, it was a case of I similar in like trust issues, and I think that from a streaming point of view, everybody should have that instinct of trust issue in a sense, or be very, because you know you're live and it's your reputation, but it's also in your case certainly your livelihood. For me, like an important part of my life, that you know. Yes, I have the job and all the rest of it, but that's not really the point. The streaming means so much more to me than any of that stuff. I hope my employer's not listening. But that's just the reality, you know. So I think it comes from the natural fear that's a healthy instinct and a healthy fear of like how devastating it would be is if you got that horribly wrong. You know, somebody just had a bad moment and suddenly like banned all of your chat, or just did silly things that you might not notice in the moment, like put you in the wrong category, or you know, just change certain, because there's certain powers, let's say, that a mod has, you know, and then there's levels to that as well, which is a good thing. So you've got some kind of granularity to it, but there's also the aspect of it that is, you know, the sword icon or whatever is clear, well known, well understood, and it conveys a degree of like authority, I guess, in a sort of a soft sense. But somebody that's meant to be, you know, protecting both the streamer, you know, and the channel and the chat in sort of varying measures or degrees. It's there for everyone's benefit, and of course, importantly, it's typically speaking for you know 99% of streamers and whatnot, not something that we're in the luxury position to like employ someone for or pay for or whatever, right? So it's a volunteer basis ordinarily in most. For me, it was a case of I had Viper was my first mod, and the selection for me. So it was a case of observation. So just observing people's behavior, how they kind of reacted and interacted with others in the chat, how they interacted with myself on or off stream, if there were any off stream interactions. And you just get a vibe, you get a feeling for how people kind of respond to certain impulses and behaviors. And I saw enough that gave me the hint of like, because I was like, oh, I'll just manage this all myself. And then, as I said, and then, you know, the channel grew just a little bit, and it was like, oh, okay, how the hell am I gonna manage this myself, you know, when I can't even press the battle button when I'm supposed to half the time. And then it was a case of like, after the observation, then I reached out, and you know, being part of the Bobs as well helped me, because I was able to reach out to a number of people that are already moderators for much you know, bigger and more established channels and things. So I was able to say, well, look, I'm thinking about reaching out to some people here, and what do you think? What do you look for? What advice would you give? And that kind of thing. And that just kept sort of solidified my view, because ultimately, going back to the trust point, is you have to then trust these people and say, okay, you haven't exactly got keys to the entire estate or the car or whatever, but you certainly are allowed to do certain things that could, heavily influence in a good or not so good way what we do here. And do you feel comfortable with that? Do you like the idea? Are you able to commit some time, even if it's completely voluntary, and if you can make it, cool, and if you can't make it, it's not a problem, we'll cope, kind of thing. And I was like very nervous about it, not specific to Viper or any particular person, but just the whole principle of like, this is no longer the if I click correctly, I'm good, and if I misclick or whatever, and then I'm not so good. This is now like kind of a team, starting a bit of a team effort, and then from there, it was just a case of saying, well, let's start with some trust, and we have a good understanding, and if it works out, cool, and if it doesn't work out, we'll call it off, and we'll go back to like a viewer streamer relationship, or maybe it doesn't work out at all, and the people just want to move on. But you have to kind of just take that sort of a little bit leap of faith, or whatever equivalent phrasing people would understand better, and then just continue, like, and this won't be a surprise to any of them, but like just keep observing it and keep feeling. For me, the key thing was the vibe. For me, it's all about good vibes and having fun and trying to put some smiles on some faces, and including my own.
Like, moderators are more than just moderators. They're there to welcome in new people. They're there to keep an eye on things and answer questions that might not have been picked up by the streamer, or that the streamer is like, you get the millionth question about, oh, what's the giveaway? There is no giveaway, or that sort of thing. Or oh, what are you building today? I don't know. Look at the stream title. I don't know, but the moderators are there to be able to answer a lot of these questions that you get on repeat.
Yeah.
And while you're sitting trying to entertain, you're trying to keep a coherent thought going and keeping commentary fresh, and not having to repeat yourself. Moderators are there to do that sort of thing for you. They're also, for me, an integral part of keeping the conversation going. Because my moderators are long-term members of my community. And I recently saw a big creator on Twitch that was able to meet up with all her moderators, and they just kind of rented a Airbnb somewhere and hung out for a full weekend.
Oh, that's cool.
I really want to do that at some point. Hell, I want to do that with my entire community at some point, but they met up to have more than just that on-stream conversation. And as an example, Frankaboom was one of my moderators. I sent him a snap today where I stood in the window and I looked at a tiny bird on my lawn that kind of hopped alongside next to my lawnmower. And it hopped in front of it, and then it looked at it, hopped further, looked at it, and just kept observing it. And I just kept looking at the dynamic going back and forth. And the bird is clearly not given any sort of flying frack about the robot coming at it. So I sent that out, looking at it. Like, it looked like the robot would be driving over it and attacking the bird. And then I got a reply back, okay, you've clearly played too much Generation Zero now. Which is all about robots attacking people and humans, So I was like, you know what? Yeah, okay, I'm okay with this.
I hadn't looked at it like that, but you're screw you.
Yeah, and
calling me out.
And that's also sort of the thing. The moderators will be part of the community that call you out. If you make an ass of yourself, they will call you out, and you have to kind of go, you know what? Fine. You just have to eat that, but it's all part of the humor. It's all part of the conversation that also makes other viewers feel safe enough to be there because they see there's a conversation, there's some fun going on.
Yeah.
And that's big. So
I agree.
How do you pick them? I have no idea. Find people you like and ask them.
Yes.
That's,
exactly. And you know, there are little cues and signs that you see. People that are often there frequently, people that spend significant time in your streams, you know, bearing time zones and families and jobs and whatever commitments, but people that simply, because being there is one of the first key signs, and being there regularly and for extended times is one of the best signs you can take. Doesn't necessarily make them immediate mod material, but it means that they care. It means that they're enjoying and something is bringing them back. So
and that also leads into the whole part of being able to answer questions or such to the community or to others coming in that might not have been there as long.
You know what? One of my favorite things is, because you know sometimes you know, like, the mods can't always make it, but generally they've got, you know, there's a great understanding between them. One of my favorite things is when, like, let's say regulars, or let's say like semi-regulars, people that are regulars but they can, you know, they might make only a couple a month or whatever, but you know they're always there, and you know, and they care, and they're you know, whether they're subs or not is not really the point, but you know that they get it and they enjoy it and they're part of it, right? And they're into it. And one of my favorite things is that moment where they come in and they're going, oh my God, I've been away on, like, you know, working for 2 weeks or whatever, so I've not been here, and I can't believe you're doing this, and blah. And the next thing you see is the mods, like, or, you know, and community members, but we're talking specifically about mods at the moment, is then the mods will jump in with, like, oh man, I know you weren't here, but like last Tuesday when we started this, we did this and this, and you should have seen Grumbles just fall off this cliff, and you know, and like you said, then the conversation, and they're already like drawn further back in, and they get that warm hug and that, you know. And you know, for me, sometimes I'm such a simple dwarf, you know, just seeing the people saying hi and saluting each other, or sharing a regular joke that they have with each other, and you know, and just seeing that community being alive, and that it's not just like just the streamer and the people that just turned up or just spoke. It's like everyone interacting and just enjoying and sharing the experience together. I really enjoy that aspect of it.
And part of this whole picking part, you say, how do you find your emote artists? I don't. I was incredibly lucky, because I feel like I have like a great, not really an answer, but more like the story. So the story for me is that during whatever oodles, I think is the official term, the scientific term of hours and enjoyment role playing in Atlas that we did in the Dark Side RP community, playing Skinny Pete, the infamous Skinny Pete. During that time, I got to role play in many scenes with all sorts of awesome sort of community members and role players, and one of them, Rajira, who we happened to interact with a lot, and literally just met each other in this video game, you know. And then eventually people found out about the stream and would come and say hello and that. But also in that RP community, if we're doing proper, typically people aren't in your chat during the stream, you know. It's, you know, because you're either in the world or you're not in the world. So over time, after kind of all our seasons and everything else, and getting to spend a bit more time, like just in general streams and saying hi and doing different conversations and content, Rajira just happens to be an artist, a very capable one, and she just reached out and sent me artwork that she had done for the Blue-Eyed Quacken, which was like one of the core aspects of the story of Pete, and she just said, it was almost like one of those,
You know, people can be so kind and then and like a little bit unsure whether they should approach or say. It's kind of like it's almost like one of those. I hope you don't mind, but I did this.
Yeah.
It's like, why the hell would I? You know, I don't think it was quite like that, but it sort of had that little bit of that undertone to it, and it was like, oh, this is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And if you want to, you can take this art and use it, and I'm just like gifting this to you, and I hope you enjoy it, kind of thing. And then we struck up a conversation, and I was like, by the way, you're a blooming amazing artist, not only a good RPer and really fun to hang out with and game together with, but amazing artist. And then it just led in that direction. It was like, if you'd ever consider doing emotes and that, because prior to that, I was doing all my own stuff. And that was part of the question, like, where do you get inspiration? Inspiration was quite simple. It's just, I like goofy, silly comedy. And I like memes generally. I'm not always aware of them all, but you know, the 2 or 3 I pick up on a year, and so I would do things like, you know, we were talking about the quack, you know, when you like torp someone or sink someone or whatever, and maybe some of Euro's videos influencing, so we just made the duck one. And then fish and chips was quite fun, because I found a picture of, we were talking about fish and chips and fish in the water and torpedoes and that kind of stuff. And then fish and chips from Atlas, because it's one of the core, you know, one of the top level foods. So I just found an image that was like from the front cover of a book called like something like a history of fish and chips or something like that.
Okay.
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. And I just made an emote out of it, like, which I know is like strictly speaking a bit borderline, like you should kind of have your own or licensed art or whatever. But in this case, it was just, well, you know, let's be realistic. I wasn't really infringing on book sales or something like that. It was just a picture of fish and chips, but they just had the words on it saying like the history of fish and chips. And I thought, well, that's pretty funny. So let's make that an emote. Yeah. So I did tend to go with things that are like my gut feeling or makes me chuckle, or often now, you know, understanding the community, having spent more time with them, things where I think this will appeal, you know, to a lot of people. They'll see the humor in this. They'll find this fun. So, you know, and like in many cases, inspiration comes like almost in reverse. Sometimes it's your own spark of an idea, and sometimes it's, you know, people just talking about a thing often enough, and you go, oh, this could work.
Like for me, I used to live with a guy who is an artist. And that's where my first set of emotes came from. And the inspiration from them came simply from stuff that happens on the channel. So anything from, like, because I used to do a thing where I got really close to the microphone and I went, meow. You know, that sort of thing. And that's where my meow emote came from. And it's like, for me, it's things that happen on the channel. So the nice butt, that's from the whole thing of you have a nice butt that I keep spouting at people. The hello, which is from when I played Assassin's Creed, and my horse, which has been named after one of my moderators, because he came in and started almost role playing as the horse in chat. As I was talking to my horse in the game, and it was like, because you could accidentally whistle for your horse if you're not careful, and then the horse kind of stands in your face, and then suddenly Andritos is in chat going, "Hello, you whistle, I help. What doing? We going somewhere? I bring you. Okay?" It's like, okay, you can go away from my face now. No, it's fine. I can bring you. And this whole thing kind of evolved from that. So that's where I draw my inspiration from emotes from. But as for finding artists, if you don't already know some of them, like I have, like the newer emotes were made by Dane, who is also a wonderful part of the community, but where you would go to find somebody if you don't know them, I have no idea. Ask others that have emote artists and work from there, I'd say.
Yeah, there are like a few emote oriented like artists selling their work through various emote sites and things, and you know, maybe, and you know, you can Google it and find out whether people hold them to be reputable. Be very wary of, like, you'll get a lot, you know, usually you get the very emotional statements. People rather come out with like, oh, I got completely screwed by this and this person through this site, or so just be very wary that obviously it's a lot of individual, like independent artists working through these things, so it doesn't necessarily mean that the service is bad or whatever. But I would concur that and we've done this before. We put the word out and let people know who's done our work, so that we can try and send more work their way as well. And word of mouth and going to other streamers that you know a little bit or you trust or you think would, maybe they just have really cool emotes. And you're like, wow, your emotes are amazing, right? Some people, and I'd like to do this. Rajira's working on putting the details together. I'd like to advertise her services on my about page, on my channel page, and some of the bigger folks I think do that as well, or probably just generally people do it. And sometimes try just going to the arts and craft or whatever, or it might be a better category than that. But look through the artistic. Or I think it's just art, isn't it? The art category, and just see. Maybe you'll find someone who's actually just spending time doing it, and you can actually see them drawing. And more importantly, you can probably spend time, and they'll take you through some of their thought process and guide you through what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can like reach out to them. They might have a business email or something, or maybe they're not taking commissions right now doing the work, so they might point you in a different direction.
Yeah, exactly. They usually have a huge network themselves for people you can talk to. So top tip there. Moving on to kind of what do you need for starting out streaming. There's such a huge market of stuff out there now. Like, we are talking dedicated machines. Like, I think pretty much all the new consoles have a built-in service into them where you can stream directly to Facebook or whatever. Or even connect your Twitch, I think, but I'm not sure. But whereas for desktop PC streaming, first and foremost, you'll need a PC. But the rest is all up to what you intend on streaming. If you intend on just putting up a webcam and pointing it at a model that you're building, you won't need a lot. You'll need upload speed, yes. But you won't need a whole lot of CPU to do the encoding and everything. If you intend to play a game, again, we're talking, what kind of game are we talking? We're talking Minesweeper for Windows 95. Won't take a lot. If we're talking Minecraft or anything that has a heavy memory or CPU load, then you'll need a whole lot more. So it's almost impossible to say what is a good starter spec, but generally to handle streaming by itself, I'd say a later generation i5 to start with, or equivalent. A nice dosage of RAM, 16 gigs maybe. I don't know. You won't need as much hard drive space because, well, you'll need hard drive space for the game, but that's not going to be a big part. And you'll need a decent graphics card. I'd say like anything from a 1060 and up is actually fairly good.
Yep. Again, very dependent on what level of games, and those are the kind of things that you can potentially replace later on. As long as you're mindful of, like, in this case, it's physical dimensions of things. So just be careful of like what kind of interfaces the rig that you've got or you're intending to build has, and also the physical dimensions, because if you get something like a mid tower or something on slightly smaller size, and then you think later on, oh, this is going really well, now I want to do whatever, start streaming some, insert new game here, Red Dead Online or something like that, then you might be, and you go, oh, well, in that case I'll get myself an RTX insert number here, and find that maybe that doesn't quite fit. Or, as happened to me with my older rig, that I had to upgrade the power unit because it simply couldn't put out enough power and have enough cabling to power up a more powerful card. So I was like, oh, cool, new card. Hang on a minute, where are all the other cables that need to go into it? Oh, right, okay,
there you go.
So that was a little gotcha for me. So But yeah, I think that you touched on it very briefly. I think a lot of people underestimate or overlook your internet connection. It needs to be reliable. It doesn't need to be business grade necessarily. I mean, mine isn't, but mine's a consumer grade, but with like a lot of up. It's like 40 up.
Yeah. You'll need a solid upload speed. You will.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be that scale, but in this case, it was just one of those special offers. Get this one for 2 years, and it's the same price as this crappy one. So like, okay, cool. And down's sort of relatively important, but that's more for your own gaming experience and/or downloads and whatever else. So that's just to make your down is more about your own personal comfort, and the up is more important for the viewer's comfort. But yeah, and other than that, like you said, it's like reasonably anything that's kind of within the last year or two, and then it comes down to your budget, and then you can. I would simplify it and go with the general advice, which is if you've got a budget and you kind of more or less have to stick to it, or you know where your pain point is, then just shop around, have a look, use Amazon to compare prices and other gaming sites and things, and maybe look in a few stores if there's some near you, and ultimately you kind of just have to get the best bang for buck that you can out of that budget. I would lean towards, as Tiger said, pay attention to the CPU, that it's relatively new. Pay attention that I think 16 gig of RAM is a sensible starting number, because there's pros and cons of going above that, and then the GPU should be as a minimum like a 1060 and above. And these days a lot of people, I think you can get the 2070 or around there, like the S's and the slightly cheaper variants, and they're very solid, and they give you, more importantly, the RTX gives you all the software and AI capabilities if you need to use them for things like noise cancellation or whatever. But that would go too deep in for this conversation.
That is above what I would call a starter kind of gear. But that kind of leads into the next part. What peripherals should you have / obtain to make the most of your early streaming after establishing that you wish to continue? If you've already established, okay, I have the PC to stream, I do okay with it, the next thing I do is I'd check on my audio. Now, a lot of the headsets these days will do wonderful things in regards to be clear and easy to understand. And you don't have this effect, so that's not an issue. And even if you do have that effect, it's not really a problem. The problem comes in making sure that your audio levels are tolerable, I'd say. Making sure that you don't peak if you get excited, or making sure that it picks up if you need to be very quiet, and making sure that the levels are good. One of the best ways of doing that is through use of the filters in OBS. I'm gonna assume that most people will be using OBS. What Cross Split and a few other packs have, I have no idea, but I hope they have the same filters, because OBS has the ability to add filters to everything. We're talking webcams, we're talking game filters, we're talking audio filters, and in this case we are looking at the audio filters. I am going to be leaving a link to a video that explains what all these different filters do, but there are things like compression that make sure that low audio, where you're very close and you're being very, very, very silent, you're almost in ASMR territory. And also when you lean back and you get very excited, like the compressor makes sure that evens out in a way. There's de-hissing, there's removal of background noise. There's so many filters out there that help your audio be equal. Yep. You can cut out, like if you have a fan on in the background, you can get that gone. You can remove most of the click clacks. So there's an audio gate, so it doesn't pick up until you're at a certain point. Like, all of these things can be set up in the filters in OBS.
Yeah, and what's important, as Tiger alluded to with the link, what's important is, and I think now is a good time and a good opportunity for people. A lot of this stuff is techno babble, even just to someone like myself with like 20 plus years of IT technobabble experience. It's a completely different realm if you're not familiar with like audio and video typically. So but you don't have to understand or know all of the technobabble. That's a good thing. And the second thing is there's loads of very, very professional and well put together, well thought through advice and guidance out there, and in all various formats, written articles, as well as, you know, YouTube is an absolute sort of blessing in this case, in that you can literally see and hear and be guided through how to set up these things and how to understand them in kind of a sort of a layman's terms perspective. You don't, you know, where the technobabble doesn't become too much. It can still be a little bit mind-blowing and confusing, but you will be guided and shown your way through some of these things. So as Tiger said, we'll put some links up there and suggest, but there's some pretty popular and hopefully reasonably well-known and well-visited sites, like, you know, like Harris Heller's stuff with his alpha gaming, Epos Vox, which is a little bit more technically minded and a bit deeper, but still made digestible for me as an example. And audio is probably the one, we've spoken about this before, the one area where it's sort of panic-inducing sometimes when it screws up. But try not to be too fearful of it, and ultimately you can do some experimentation. The one, talking about the equipment, I think what's important is to, and especially if you're on a budget or trying to stick to a certain budget, is try to reserve some money for a decent microphone.
Yes.
This doesn't mean earth-shatteringly expensive. It could be expensive in relative terms and difficult for your budget. You might have to save up or whatever. But I would be very cautious about, like a lot of people do, start just grabbing a gaming headset or something. A lot of those microphones are really, really not suited for streaming. They're suited for comms within a team, you know, your Call of Duty buddies and all that kind of stuff. They really, really don't transfer to streaming in terms of engaging and holding an audience very well at all. It's one of the quickest turnoffs for me when I go to any of those kind of streams. I'm like, oh no, they're just screaming down these horrible little microphones on the end of a boom that sounds like they're chewing on it, or they swallowed it, or they've tucked it under their beard and I can't hear, you know, all those kinds of things. So you've also got to start thinking about how you hold yourself and how you project your voice, and like Tiger said and demonstrated before, acoustically, your position to the mic and understanding how you're addressing the mic. And again, these sources on YouTube will be really, really invaluable to them. Invest the time, do your research, listen, think about, and also watch live streams. Look at, a lot of streamers have their equipment listed. Look at and listen more carefully with maybe with your eyes closed and some good headphones on or something, or in a quiet environment at least, and listen to how they sound and think about, and record some of your own voice and listen back to it. Think, because that's very different than what you hear within your, you know, within your mind's ear, as it were. Think about how your voice sounds and how they sound, and try to get a rough idea of where sort of pitch and whatever, what you sound like when you listen back to yourself, not when you talk out loud to yourself, but when you listen back to yourself from recording. And think about these other streamers that you might enjoy and looking at their equipment that they're using. Maybe it's affordable, maybe it isn't, but it might give you a general range, and you might find that you might not want to afford the mic that they're using, because it might be like, I don't know, a $400 mic or something. But you might find on the internet articles that say, well, this is in this similar style, or this is from the same company and they make mics generally in this way. So you could look at this kind of, like, you know, the $50 starter mic or whatever. I'm just saying random prices, by the way. Yeah, there's everything from $1 to $1,000 or $2 or $3 or whatever, right? And the other thing is, don't immediately go for like the $1,000 mic or whatever if you're lucky enough to be able to afford that, because there's also a lot of evidence that it's really hard to tell the difference when you get the filters and things that Tiger was alluding to correctly set. It doesn't make that much difference. The $50 mic will hold its own against the $1,000 mic in 99% of cases if you set everything up correctly.
And especially if you're doing this as a hobby.
Yes.
Like when we're talking right now, I'm using a studio microphone, and I can bet you that compared to pretty much any other streamer out there right now, I don't necessarily sound any more clearer. It's just that I had this for when I was doing studio recordings. So I had this available. You don't have to go for a studio microphone. What I would like to counter on your point regarding gaming headsets, however, is that by the use of filters, you will remove a lot of that hissing. You will remove a lot of that static that can occur because people get excited. And the compression will help with picking up your voice clearly, even when it's not properly placed. So as far as starting equipment, I'm not sure I would go ahead and say you need to pick up a microphone yet. But that is definitely one of the first ones I would upgrade once you kind of decide that, yeah, this is something I want to go for.
That's true, because there was a part of the question about what would you upgrade later on. I mean, you can certainly start with what you've got. I guess a little bit of where I'm coming from is also my experience in professional life and working life, where with the pandemic and experiencing every imaginable variant of audio and visual quality, when people are suddenly working from home and scrambling around and picking up iPhone headphones and streaming at their webcam and stuff, right? So it's maybe more a little bit like, just be careful that if you, I suppose where it comes from is a little bit the phrase, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So when people come into your chat and spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes and kind of make a judgment call, is this cool? Am I going to be here? If you are unfortunately in that kind of, I'm over here and everything's cutting out, and or scraping and scratching sounds and things like that, you've lost everyone. It doesn't matter how good your video content is. Maybe the only exception would be is this, if it's a hot tub stream and you want to mute the tap, but then the mic doesn't matter anyway. So, but jokes aside, I do agree with you, and I think the key point is maybe that the technology advancements in the last 2 years have been quite astounding as well in that regard, with RTX and similar kinds of things, and even the filters and OBS and everything is really, they've stepped up the game in that regard. So you could be absolutely right in that maybe now you could take reasonable gaming headsets. I think the problem usually, I don't really understand it in full depth, but generally the problem seems to stem from the fact that it's a really titsy tiny microphone on the end of a tiny little vibrating boom that vibrates with everything when you breathe. And I think that's where the problem comes from versus an actual microphone. I mean, I guess I would look at things like, a lot of people use like the Yeti Blue or the Blue Yeti or whatever it's called and stuff like that. And the other thing, but this might be an upgrade topic as well, is really worth considering, like talking about equipment, have a good desk, like enough desk space, and then maybe look at a microphone boom if you want to get a mic. It doesn't matter if it's a USB mic or it doesn't have to be XLR and all the rest of it, but because having that so that you can actually position the mic, move it around, move yourself, and compensate for those kind of things and funny angles that you need to use is really beneficial as well. But it also avoids that whole kind of, I died, and you slam your mouse or you slam the keyboard or something like that, and your mic is sitting on the desk.
And it's like through the entire thing. Like, that's a great sound.
And all your viewers went to the doctor for the hearing test.
Ear bleed. Yeah, no, like, and it's weird, like the use of your desk. Like a lot of people say, and it's kind of beside streaming, but a lot of people are like, I just spent tens of thousands on a gaming PC, all right, and then they sit on a chair from IKEA at 200 Norwegian krone, which is about £20. So, no, Upgrade your gear. Upgrade your gear in general as a gamer, not just as a streamer. Get a good desk. Sit stand if you can. Get a good chair with proper lumbar support. You know, your body will thank you. And I guess the same goes for streaming. If you're really into this, if you really are serious about wanting to upgrade your viewers' experience, because that is where it all ends up, right? Then do consider moving on to more high-end stuff. Part of the question here was one PC or two, and not a lot of people might not be aware of this, but you are able to stream from one PC and play games on another through the use of a capture card or NDI technology. This is a step above, I'd say. Like if you're into the idea of going for a 2 PC setup, we're really talking a high level setup here. So I won't touch on that too much, but if you truly are interested in it, reach out to me. I'll explain to you, but what I'd say for starting out, even just upgrading, stick to one PC for now. Because the extra equipment, the extra costs, are they going to be worth it for somebody who does this for a hobby? Probably not. But
yeah,
if you truly are into it, reach out to me. I'll have a talk with you.
Yeah, I think the cost is a big impact, and ultimately it's the same with many mechanical and technical aspects. If you've got two of a thing, having 2 cars means 2 sets of servicing, 2 fuel bills, and
2 possible things that can fail.
Exactly, the chance of something breaking. So if you're quite technically minded or very intrigued and have the time and energy to invest into that, then you can look at it. But it's probably an overcomplication as a startup thing, especially if you're coming from a position of, I think I'm going to enjoy this. I think I want to have a go and dip my toe in, but you don't know yet until you've done it. You never will, right? Then have a go. And then if you're, sort of 3 months in, or, kind of arbitrary amount of time, maybe 6 months is a better judgment, and you think, okay, this is actually good. I'm going to definitely do this. I'm having a lot of fun. I can see how this is going to progress. And then you can start looking at some of the more, more complicated aspects to it, or more advanced aspects to it.
Moving on here, upgrading hardware as you establish your channel, choices and recommendations, it all depends. It all depends on what you need. Some people find that they need a webcam, some people don't. Some people find that they need a better graphics card, some people don't. It all depends. So it's really an impossible question to answer. But then again, it also depends on how serious you want to get about this. So very, very hard to answer there. Moving on to a question that is important to me from Dominica. He says, I know I'm a frequent offender of this, but what are your thoughts on viewers joining your games during streams? Any etiquette rules you believe to be important? Yes. Many. Well, I say many. But my main point here is that a lot of people watch streamers. They listen to streamers, how they are on stream, and they see, okay, he's talking about the cat that walked out in front of him in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and he's talking as the cat is moving away, like he's narrating the cat. Yes, and they believe that that's how they need to behave. No. Let the streamer stand for the commentary. Let the streamer be the main source of the entertainment here. Because they are. You are literally a guest there. We do not need a running commentary from you, because what you are doing isn't seen on screen 99% of the time. Let's take the grumblings as an example. I die early. and I go over to watch Grumbles. I'll then ask Grumbles and comment together with Grumbles regarding torpedoes or situations happening there. However, if I were to go over and watch a completely different part of the match while not being part of the grumbling, but I'm in the division and talking about how the Holland shot a seagull or whatever, it's not important for the stream. The stream can't see this. The stream is not aware of this thing happening. Being told that there's a Panzer IV falling off a hill in War Thunder on a completely different part of the map is not important. Let the streamer be the streamer. Even if you are a streamer yourself and you are used to doing this sort of commentary, you have to be aware that you are a guest on this stream. You are a guest on this on this platform suddenly. Mm-hmm. You are not why people are there to watch the channel. And I'm not going to name any names, but I've recently got a comment back from somebody saying, I want to see more of just Tiger on stream. It's fun to have you together with everybody else in War Thunder or whatnot, but I want to see more of just Tiger. I was like, okay. That's duly noted. And then I asked, okay, what brings this on? It's like, well, this is your stream, right? This is your time to shine. We're not here to hear the commentary of person X doing thing Y in the corner over there. I'm like, yeah, and that is something I have been aware of, and that is also something I've been kind of afraid of doing. Really, why it's been hard for me to invite people onto my channel to play together with me, because a lot of people aren't aware of how that will impact both the stream and the streamer. Mm-hmm. So I guess, like, if you are being engaged by the streamer and somebody asking you, okay, what's happening on your end of the map, what are you seeing, and so on, sure, go ahead, narrate, talk. But if you're not being asked, if you're not being directed a question or being brought in as part of the conversation, then it's not necessarily your time in the spotlight.
Yeah, I think I would agree, and I think it's kind of one of those most complex questions to give a straightforward response. I think you've articulated really well. I think that, for me, the general guidance is you want people to have fun, obviously, relax, enjoy themselves. Sometimes it's nerves that kick in, and that can lead to people either being super quiet or super chatty. It works both ways. I think, and you're right, it definitely isn't something that's limited to whether the other person's a streamer or not, because it happens in both scenarios, sometimes awesomely and sometimes not quite what people are expecting. I think that I think it's not really, it's not definitely not asking too much, but there's a certain ask. Maybe this is a thing to express it. Is that obviously want people to be polite and to be self-aware, and the way I would put it, like, follow the vibe and the tone that's being set by the streamer and the channel in the specific scenario, because there can also be a distinct difference between as you put it, guesting on a channel and on a stream in a certain segment or in a certain context. Like, it's different to team up with some people in chat on WoWs than it might be to team up with people, or certainly like in an RP scenario, or you're doing your Gen Zero or something, and sort of lightweight kind of playing your characters and playing the story together. And I think there's also, obviously, there's a familiarity and trust aspect to it as well, in that if these are regulars and friends and people that you hang out with often, and probably the way to put it would be, if this is somebody that you would off stream just game with, get in a room and just have some laughs and play a game with, and then you just happen to be streaming, then it's probably going to be quite natural and you're all going to kind of understand each other. There might be a few little etiquette rules or whatever that's slightly different, but generally people understand each other and understand the streamer and the context. And I think that when you bring, especially new people that are not so confident or so familiar with being in a voice channel live with someone on a stream, there is a certain sort of pressure, and or there can sometimes just be and I mean this in a neutral sense, like a degree of ignorance of like not really thinking what this might mean, or how am I projecting myself, or how might this be interpreted. But I think your guidance is on point, and it's about, for me, it's about understanding that you're effectively still like a viewer and a member of the chat and a member of the community, respected, cared for, and you've been invited into something, and not losing that perspective, or somehow accidentally seeing that as something different, or as you say, like a platform to suddenly launch into a tirade about ABC that I don't like. Like, one of the things that always gets me is you bring someone in and the first thing they do is start belly aching and moaning about something, or being negative, and you're like, this is exactly the antithesis. This is the opposite of what we're trying to kind of promote here in the positivity. And we all have our moments where you sort of whinge and moan or whatever, and be grumpy or hangry or whatever, but you've just got, that's where I say you've got to bring that self-awareness with you, and at the same time hopefully not be inhibited and find yourself just being sort of silent. But I think you're right, Tiger, in that and in those kind of cooperative sort of gaming scenarios, it can be quite challenging because you're going through all the emotions of what just happened. But the cue is really quite a subtle and simple one, which is, you might go, oh no, I can't believe that happened, and then the streamer will then say, oh, what's going on there, if they have time.
Yeah.
And if you, so you got to listen for those cues, and if you don't get those cues, then you have to assume and respect that the streamer is otherwise engaged. Maybe a hype train just started on Tiger's channel, or whatever is going on. But you've got to be kind of mindful of that they can't come over to you right now, even if the most amazing trick shot, CS:GO jump headshot thing just happened or whatever. Tough. Then you had to be recording it for your own pleasure later, or hope that it appeared on someone's stream channel, or stream yourself. I have experienced that once or twice where I've like, hang on a minute, like in the nicest possible way, but like, whose stream is this again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like it's not exactly cut and dried, but you've got to kind of get a feel for the room and the flow, and if you're not sure, just ease yourself into it. Just listen and be observant and pay attention to these cues. Look for these cues, because streamers typically, even if we're distracted, most of the time we'll be looking for opportunities to bring the guests in and give them, their moment to shine, or bring out the play that they're doing and their opinions and their experience. Because otherwise, why would we have guests on? We don't bring guests on so we can go, oh, look how much better and how much more I've got to say than you have. That's just not the people we are. So
yeah, you are not there to outshine anybody, but you will be given the opportunity to shine for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I guess some people will look at the grumbling and be like, well, this is what you guys do all the time. Very different scenario. Mm-hmm. Very different. Like, we are all three on a level of knowing we will be streaming together. And I'm terrible at hot micing. I know this.
We all do it.
But I will profusely apologize for any time I hot mic and it's like, shit, I didn't mute. Sorry, that sort of thing. And sometimes Grumpy will be like, yeah, and then we have a giveaway, so do this. And I'm like, oh, we're doing a giveaway? And then it's a comment from me. But it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah.
It is. So
Well, it's you know, it's based on that kind of mutual respect and understanding. The fact that we all, you know, we understand all the pressures and whatever, and that we've all got too many buttons to press, and the accents, and obviously, of course, we've just formed a really strong, a really strong. Anybody listening to the podcast right now, you can go to Tiger's Den and start an offline hype train.
Stop.
Anyway,
because this will probably launch while I'm live at some point. So no.
Well, it's all right. I didn't say it out loud.
You did.
You could just edit this bit out. It's fine.
I can't.
You love extra
can't.
work. You love. So I think, and we've just formed this bond and this understanding. So I think sometimes that is a part of it. And this is not about like us three specifically. This will be the same in any kind of close group that have got that understanding and camaraderie. Is that I think sometimes there's that feeling of like you can jump into that and just immediately be like the fourth stooge. It's like there wasn't a fourth stooge. That's not how it, you know. So I mean this like in the nicest possible way, but it's not to say that you couldn't be. Anybody could be. But you have to spend time and allow us time to process that and get to understand each other and know kind of a little bit like you almost get to that psychic level of like, I bet I know how this reaction is going to go. I know what this person's going to say or whatever. I know that this person's not listening at this moment in time. And it becomes like but it's like a sort of a sign of affection and part of this bond that we have. And I think sometimes people naturally want to jump in and just immediately sort of be fully embraced into that. And the reality is we've all clicked really quickly and formed that bond, and it's just gone from strength to strength, and I'll be eternally humbled and privileged to be part of it, but at the same time it's also months and months of now doing this and other things together, and that's what's led to it, this true sort of friendship and this deeper understanding. And on the surface, when you just come into like any random grumbling or whatever similar scenario, you can't just walk into that room because it's not acting. It's not I'm coming in and playing a role in this thing, even if it is entertainment and whatever. Underneath it, we know each other and we understand each other and what's going on. You know, and I think people will understand that. I think sometimes it's you can get that false opinion of like, oh, like these 10 people are really funny together. I can just walk in there and then there'll be 11 of us being really funny. And you can't force things to happen like that. They need time to develop. Very rarely does it just click.
Yeah, no, it's weird. So a perfect example of this is, of course, like somebody kind of making me go full Postonian on the grumbling, or me knowing to fluster grumbles, all I have to say is 4 out of 5 torpedoes. Or to get Grumpy to go off on something, you know, you mentioned something about him being from somewhere else in Sweden than he is, or something, you know, it's these fine things, but they're established over a long time so that they're okay between us. But somebody else coming in that hasn't been part of that dynamic will immediately like, I'm sorry, what? Who are you? Why are you trying to be? Why go away?
Yeah. I think that's maybe just the last point on that is that, and I think we've talked about this extremely briefly before, but it makes me think of it again. Is there's also like we talked about chat etiquette, and there's a little bit of an overlap into that in that sometimes I would say maybe this was failed on the succinct part here, but the difference between one of us three teasing one of the others or all of the others with something that we know and we understand and we have that bond underpinning it all is quite different than, you know, sometimes, not always, but sometimes how it works in chat, where some people might pick up on a certain theme or whatever and then just start hammering that home. And there's a really subtle line, for me anyway, that's how I find it. Maybe I have more sensitive moments than others, but sometimes where I'm always looking, the fundamental thing I'm looking for across all of our communities is this good vibes and this trying to be positive, and we laugh at our mistakes and we pick each other up, dust each other off, move forward. And if we get angry, it's the Bostonian for 5 minutes or whatever. And you know, but it becomes comical, and not that we're laughing at you, but with you, and embracing that kind of feeling and moving forward together. And sometimes it's cathartic. And sometimes that gets a little bit lost, I find, where just occasionally it'll be a little bit, it feels more like a dig, you know, where you get a little bit of needle or whatever, because there are sometimes people that lean more towards the, I think I remember certainly from my upbringing, you know, in Britain, was very much like you didn't show your emotional hug, be a friend kind of side too publicly. Instead, you kind of made jokes, had a dig, tease somebody, and that was you showing your affection. The problem with that is, in the chat context especially, is that it doesn't really work because there's no sentiment and context to the chat. Exactly. So when you have a dig at somebody, and this is where capper emotes are excellent and save a lot of you know, people's feelings a lot of the time, is that sometimes it easily goes over that line, at least in terms of the recipient of the message. Like sometimes I'm like a little bit hurt where I'm like, why I know I do this silly thing sometimes, but do we all have to pick on that, you know? And sometimes there's moments where it's like, okay, this is funny and we're having a laugh. And usually if I'm triggering or some obvious event happened, but other times it's just like, really, you know, people don't even come in sometimes and go hello. They come in and go, oh, you're that idiot that taught that guy the other day, or, you know, over exaggerating it.
Yeah, and that's stepping over a bound.
Yeah, so I would just say, like, give people the hint of like, it's fun to share in the jokes, and the mistakes usually lead to more hilarity. Just be mindful of the fact that, you know, everybody has a point where they don't always just want to be kind of reminded of everything they ever do wrong. You know, maybe sprinkle in a little bit of nice stuff in with the teasing. But I do get it, and I know where that comes from all too well. Growing up in Britain, it's a real deep-seated, deep-rooted thing. I would just give people the advice. It's more of a general like etiquette thing. Is think about the fact that the person may or may not in that moment understand it that way. They might not see it as, oh, you're really kind of just giving me, you know, a hug with your teasing, because it feels like you're actually just having a dig sometimes. It's
a hug with a friendly stabbing in between the ribs with a sharp knife. Yeah, that's fun. That's well, holy
I know. I was just going to say we gotta expedite.
We've really covered a lot regarding streaming this episode, but I guess I did kind of call it though that this would be the meat and potatoes of it.
You did.
But here is the segment where I feel like everybody said you need to keep this, and we will keep this because it is important. And last time we asked for things that made you guys smile, and Dominica commented on the YouTube video that a few days ago. Well, it is Pride Month.
Pride Month. Exactly. Go with it. Happy Pride Month, everyone.
A few days ago, a YouTube channel came into my recommendations of someone who goes around his general area with a camera and unclogs clogged storm drains, culverts, and so on, all with just a rake and a camera. He's not a city or state worker. He just does it on his free time to help with local floodings. It is the simplicity of what he does and the positive response he gets from the viewers commenting, and in a few videos from the local police or road workers, that just made me smile. His channel name is Post10. That's from Dominica. And the simplicity of that, I can see and really understand the feel goods of that. I can. I want to bring up something very quickly that made me smile, and I've talked about TikTok a lot because I'm currently researching more and more of TikTok, how to grow, and we will. I kind of want to cover this today regarding discoverability and Twitch and everything, but we'll have to cover that a different time. But TikTok is a wonderful place for me to get lost in my ADD brain. And a while back, I think it's a couple of weeks ago now, I posted a video to our podcast channel on Discord where there is a father sitting in the front of a car, and he's about to tell a story. He's a former soldier, and he has his I don't know how old she is, but she's not very old, daughter in the backseat. And he starts speaking, and suddenly we hear "Daddy," and you see him kind of go, "Okay, well, my TikTok's interrupted. I might as well answer." So I say, "Yes," and she goes, "Is shit a bad word?" And he said, "Yeah, shit's a bad word. You shouldn't say that." Okay. And then he turns back, and just as he's about to speak again, the daughter goes, "Daddy." "Yes." "Is motherfucker a bad word?" And you see it on his face, like, "Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh." And he's like, yeah, that's a really bad word. You shouldn't say that at all. So don't say that." And he's just, "Oh, just this innocent, oh, okay." And then lastly, she goes, "Daddy, is gosh a bad word?" And he goes, No, gosh, you can say gosh all you want. That's perfectly fine. You can say gosh all day long. And the title on this TikTok is, "She called me a gosh right after. I don't know what it means, but I think I should be mad." And it just made me, like, I sat there, I smiled.
It was a really good one.
So
it really was
on point. It's so good.
The best thing was that he sat down to record something completely different.
Yeah.
And as kids will do, it's just like, I got a random point I'm going to make right now because I'm a child and there's no social cues or anything. I'm just... That was very good. Yeah. Is shit a bad word? And then his face as well, like, I'm recording right now, but he was like, it doesn't matter, my daughter comes first. Which is also a very cool part of the reaction, that he chose to interact with his daughter instead of be like, "You can't do this, I'm recording." You know what I mean? One of those, like,
Yep.
It was a really good all-round video. I like that one.
I can probably link to it in the description.
Yeah, I think you should.
You had a wonderful thing you wanted to say before we round off with a comment that made us both smile.
Yeah, I do, and it's kind of like a personal or like a friend of mine related topic who's also a fellow streamer, and we've D&D'd together in a campaign for like 4 or 5 years or so on very consistently. Just an amazing creative person, and you may remember because we raided there actually in the past as well. Maddie the zombie. Well, Maddie's going through like huge life changes, and recently did a short video and shared this within our D&D group, and has also rebranded the Twitch, and it made me just think and smile and be happy, and it's also Pride Month as a kind of a loose adjunct to that, and about how it's great to be on a platform that and within all these extended communities that are not only positive and bringing the good vibes, but also the diversity and acceptance and acknowledgement and respect to all sort of walks of life and whatnot. And I'm just really happy and proud for my friend who is now called Ray, and uses the pronoun she or her, or and etc. I'm not very, I'm an old fuddy-duddy, so I have to learn all these things that the kids bring to me, sort of tongue-in-cheek, and it just made me so happy, and it made me smile that Ray felt she could confidently sort of share this, because it's an enormous life change and everything, and also being able to rebrand. So you can now go check out Ray, you're a zombie, as the anime kids say, BAE on the end. I love that. It's just a fantastic style of doing it, and using the tuber software to be able to use avatars and things to feel more comfortable, and still keep like a camera interactive kind of presence and things, because these certain physiological aspects and limitations of going through these kind of experiences. And you want to avoid the kind of obvious thing of like, but you don't look like Ray, kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it just made me so happy, and I just wanted to kind of share that here, because we've got many friends, streamers and non-streamers, viewers, and directly and as part of our broader set of communities that we interlink with, that are very progressive and celebrate and embrace this diversity, and and I can certainly speak from point of view of like heterosexual male growing up in like old school kind of Britain, in the era and everything, and Europe's a lot more open and typically speaking, but the world is, or let's say the media and to a certain degree nurturing and old school education and things that I went through were definitely not kind of all embracing and now it's the thing, and now you must be, and all that kind of stuff. But it certainly, I felt nurtured through a system that made those kind of things uncomfortable, and like I'm still learning and sort of try to make my sort of humorful remarks about how I might get things wrong or not understand a certain word or a category or something like that, because I personally also don't believe in categories. I think people should just be who they are, and everyone should just hopefully enjoy that as long as you're not hurting anyone else. But anyway, so like from my life experience, I can see it from how this is not easy, and how this is not how so much of life isn't predestined to kind of accept and embrace these things. And that just made me really happy that we've got a platform here and the ability to reach out and just kind of embrace everybody and accept them and enjoy their creativity and sharing what they're able to kind of bring to the world. And that's why I just wanted to bring that up as something to share about, something to smile about. Sorry.
I always love a good story about kind of self-realization and knowing where you fit in. Mm-hmm. It's good. That's always something that makes me smile. That's good. As a last something that makes us smile, we did receive one comment on the last episode, which really deeply moved me, and it ties into what we started out with thank you for the comments, questions, and feedback. This is a comment from somebody that says, I can only speak personally, but I can never thank either of you enough for being there when I needed to think about other things rather than the medical issues that I've been dealing with for some time. Being able to switch off, even for a short while, from what I've been dealing with has helped me mentally. Laughter is often quoted as being the best medicine. I firmly believe it has helped me to keep a level of humor as well as the physical benefits that being able to maintain a positive mental attitude can bring. You too have been a major contributor to this. And it kind of circles back to why I stream. It circles back to why I wish to be a full-time entertainer and content creator. It circles back to every single time I, at the start of my stream, say I'm humbled and thankful for everybody who shows up every time I hit that start stream button. It circles back to every time Grumble says thank you at the end of his streams with the emotional music in the background before raiding somebody. It circles back to all of these things that give us a meaning of what we do. And it is giving me a very big and very happy smile. Like we were talking a genuine smile. It's not just a guffaw at laughter at something, at a kid saying daddy is shit, a bad word. This is a bigger smile than that.
Yeah.
It's a different smile, but it's a bigger smile in some way.
Exactly. And yeah, I can only echo that sentiment. It's always an honor and privilege to be able to spend some time and attempt in my own way and in all of our respective ways to bring some humor, to bring something to smile, to something to laugh, to be it the distraction that's needed, whatever it may be. And I feel that we're able to do that on a very regular and consistent basis. And thank you for giving us that feedback, because we hope and trust that that's what we're doing. But it's also nice to know it, to hear it, to read it, and to see the real feeling that brings. So thank you.
With that being said, with that being done, this has been Exit to Podcast. So it's goodbye from me, and goodbye from Grumble.
Bye. Also, we haven't forgotten about role-playing. We will bring it back next time.
Yep, we will. Bye!
Bye!